just start my. We have a lot of people who are asynchronous, and we also have some people on their way. Not sure how late they will be joining us, but yeah, it's really nice to see everyone over here. So as always, please turn on your cameras. We are in focus mode, so only Homayra and I will be able to see you guys. And also, yeah, speaking of that, we have Homayra joining us from, where are you? Are you in Switzerland right now?
I'm in Switzerland right now. Hello, everybody.
Hello. So Homayra is the founder of Innocence in Danger. And so today what we are mainly doing is to have a short introduction of ourselves, because this way we know who we are working with, again, the organizations that we have, the history of the organization. And it's just mainly a chat session, or it's not as formal as we will be going into for the next few weeks. So yeah, Homayra, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you so much for being interested in a topic which is very, very important. So tonight, the goal was for me to introduce to you what is Innocence in Danger, why did we start Innocence in Danger, how did it start? I've been doing this since 1999, so we have 25 years of activity with Innocence in Danger, which, even though it was first founded in Paris, in France, and I will tell you in a minute why in Paris. Afterwards, bit by bit, I opened offices in other parts of the world, namely Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Colombia, South America, then US, Belgium, and I had originally also one office in the UK, one office in Morocco, which I did not keep for reasons which are maybe irrelevant. If anybody wanted to know why I didn't keep those chapters, you are more than welcome to ask me. I will explain to you. So we are active mostly in European countries. My idea from day one was to work in countries where there are enough legislations to for people to understand that a child cannot be a sexual partner, and that there was enough law enforcement and police task force to go after those who are, committing criminal acts. So I didn't go to Africa. I didn't go to parts of, to Asia, for example. I didn't go to India, not because they don't need what we do, they badly need, but the problem in those countries, in some of those countries where the need is very big, is also because there is not enough legislations, and the tourism of these countries, like, for example, a country like Philippines or like Thailand, unfortunately, the tourism and the economy is a lot based on sex trafficking with children. So obviously the police task force and the governments are not very in favor of somebody like me who comes in, who tries to break all this and tell people it's what you have been doing for decades is not okay. So I didn't go to those countries because of this, even though I do hope that with some knowledge and with your generation, some individuals will want to be active also in those countries, because the need is there, and what is in stake is very important. Because I will go through this later in time, but just for us to understand the importance of what we will be doing as of tonight with me, and hopefully you guys afterwards, is that children are our future. Those who become victims of sexual abuse and sexual assault are affected and impacted for life. I will go through this part later. It's in our program. I will be talking to you about the physical and psychological impacts of sexual abuse on children. So it is important to raise awareness. It is important to try to help each life that we can. And this is what we have been doing since 25 years ago, wherever we are. And sometimes in a case that we treat in France or in Germany, there are kids who are concerned by our work in other parts of the world where we do not have offices. However, the bad guy or the bad people who have put the children in these situations, if they are tried in one of the countries where we work in, it will also impact the lives of those in Asia, in Africa, or in India. You know what I mean? If they are arrested, if they are behind bars, and if they have to explain what they did, if they will be in court. Children all over the world will be impacted by the trial, because it will be about all of them, and not only children in Europe or in America. In a court case, it is about all the children who are involved, who have been impacted. Now, at each step of the way, if you had questions, you can stop me and I can answer your questions, because I am hoping to be clear. I would like to sensitize you all individually and as a group. So I need to be sure that I am clear to be able to inform you in a good way, in the right way. So let's go to how and why Innocence in Danger was born. Innocence in Danger was born in January 1999 in response to the findings of Operation Cathedral. I have sent a whole document to Ada. She will share it with you later, so you can have this also forever, for good. Operation Cathedral was a police operation that broke up an international child pornography ring, which was called the Wonderland Club. Wonderland Club was operating through internet. Now, what we have to know is that internet was never created to be used for this purpose. Internet was created and was used by us, by individuals, by people, to bring us together, to be a source of information and culture and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, 4 or 5% of this wonderful tool is in the hands of people who do not have these intentions, and they want to make money, they want to make quick money, they are criminals. And what they used to do before the era of internet, now they are doing it on internet in a very anonymous and complicated way for the police to investigate them. So we are now in 1996 in San Jose in California, when a little girl who is 10 years old is invited to spend the weekend in the house of one of her school friends. While she is there during the weekend, she is sexually abused by the father of her friend. What happens is that when they are sleeping, he goes to the bedroom where this little girl is sleeping, and he puts his hands on her mouth, pulls her out from the bedroom and takes her to another room in which there were, I don't know how many computers. Everybody was logged in. There were 27 people who were logged in, and they were watching this little girl being raped, and giving tips, asking this or that to be done. The whole thing was filmed and was then circulating on the internet. And this little girl, when she goes back home, she tells her mother on Sunday night. This happens Saturday night. She goes home Sunday. She tells her mother. The lucky part, if there is one, is that her mother immediately believed her. And they went to the police in San Jose, and they were again lucky to have a policeman who believed the little girl and believed the mother. And he opened a case to be investigated. Then the police goes to the house of the man who is the one who raped this little girl, and they seized all the computers and they put him in jail immediately. But what they did, in order to find all the other ones, they continued to converse with the other ones as if the man was not in prison, as if he was still active. And they started investigating all the people who were in contact with this man, and they realized that actually this was like a club with a membership, except that the membership was not to pay anything with a credit card. It was to produce and to share on the platform, each one of them, 10,000 pictures of children in situations of abuse, of sexual abuse. This was for them a way to enter the club. But the members, once they were in the club, they would see that there is a section which is considered the VIP section, to which they didn't have access. So when they asked how they can access that, their answer was, oh, now you have to produce and share pictures of sexual abuse of children who are new. This means you cannot find a picture from a child who is not there. The pictures have to be new pictures. This obviously made it that these men started to prey on children who were around them, their own kids, the friends of their kids, and family kids, and so on. So when this police operation started, it started from the UK, the British National Crime Squad. They decided to ask, let me close the window because we have a storm here. Excuse me. We have a beautiful storm here, but it is a big one. Wow. They decided to invite not only obviously the US Customs, Interpol, FBI, but also they invited the police task force of 13 other countries, namely Belgium, France, Portugal, Germany, Austria, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Italy, and of course the UK, Australia, and the US. And they had already, almost all of them worked together on the break of another criminal network a few months earlier, which was called the Zandvoort network, which was working active in Holland. On September 2nd, 1998, the British National Crime Squad coordinated 1,500 police officers who arrested the 107 members of Wonderland Network simultaneously at 4 a.m. It was 4 a.m. in every country, in every place they arrested people, those 107 men. They wanted to do it simultaneously because in this way they would make sure that none of them will inform another one to clean up the office and to delete the material. They seized 750,000 pictures of children being abused, 1,800 videos, and once they decided to identify the number of children, there were 1,263 children who were featured. They have not been all identified, unfortunately, even today, but there were over 1,200 kids who were had pictures all over the internet. Wonderland was found to be established in 46 countries, where actually 180 people were active in creating and trading images. This group was secretive and had a hierarchy. And as I said earlier, the applicants had to submit 10,000 pictures to qualify for entry. One of the reasons for the very high profile of this operation, because 1,500 police task force is a big number, But one of the reasons was the unusually high numbers of images involved, produced and distributed by Wonderland Club, which again, the figure is 750,000 images and 1,800 videos. But we have to know that it was all crypted, and that despite the very substantial work but by many of these agencies and police task force, only a very small number of those appearing in the images were identified until today. The investigation had been sparked by a tip-off from the United States police investigating the rape of this little girl, who was broadcasted live to pedophiles by webcam. And what I want to, you will smile, but back then, just remember, we are in 1998. Back, you were not born, actually, some of you, maybe none of you, but back then having a computer and a webcam was very, very sophisticated. Today, we all have webcams on our computers, but in 1998, it was a whole installation. So they were really very active people in this field, and they had their webcams, and they were all carrying out these activities from their homes. And many of them were fathers, they were, I mean, people beyond any suspicion. Back then, there was a very chronic lack of laws and legal framework for this kind of activity, because it was a new criminality. Internet was new, and there were not enough, there was not back then enough legislation nor enough collaboration between the police task force of these countries, which means that the people who were arrested, some of them had almost no time, no jail time, because the prosecutors had difficulties to imagine that behind every picture there is a real child who is being raped, who is being abused, and they could not back then think about the fact that an image like this, which goes on the internet, once something goes on the internet, there is no coming back. This image is going to be there as long as this child is an adult, and for her lifetime, her or his lifetime. There were as many boys as there were girls. So the jail time, the condemnations were absolutely ridiculously low. Many of these people were set free after 6 months, 9 months, and they are in the nature since. And we don't, I mean, I am practically sure that the activity of this Wonderland Club should be now maybe on the dark web. I cannot imagine that these 180 members just stopped doing what they were doing because of this investigation and dismantlement. Yeah, so and we have to know that since this operation happened, other networks have been dismantled, bigger than Wonderland. But this is how Innocence in Danger started, because back then this information came to UNESCO and to other entities, and UNESCO decided to hold a conference with the police task force of these countries in Paris. And this is where they invited me to go and talk about my own activity of child protection with children. And once I had finished my little speech, they asked me if I would accept to carry out the action plan of the movement called Innocence in Danger, which was born in UNESCO in January 1999, exactly, I think, on the 19th of January 1999. And I, of course, accepted immediately without even imagining 1 minute back then how difficult it would be, and how how much the subject was going to be a taboo all over the world. I don't regret a minute, but I have to say it's much harder than what I thought. When I said yes to UNESCO, I thought, who will refuse to help me to save a child? But I was wrong. And I also thought that sexual abuse of children only happens in what we call third world countries. I was wrong, because victims are a lot from those countries, but the abusers are from the countries which are called developed countries, depending on what developed means. And so the kids are from everywhere and the abusers are from everywhere. This is something that we have to know. So when the conference was finished after 2 days and a half, Innocence in Danger was born, and I started to work with UNESCO from Paris. The first thing I did was to identify NGOs who are active in this field and organize conferences and meetings with them, which we did. But then very soon I wanted to meet with the victims. I wanted to meet with the parents of the victims. I wanted to have lawyers to go to court and defend these kids. UNESCO is not an organization that can do that, nor can UNICEF. They do something else. They have data, they make conferences, they are very good at publishing information, which we all need and use, but they could not be a field organization as I wanted to be. Once I had met a few victims and some parents, I couldn't be, it was not enough for me just to have data and to publish information. I wanted to be hands-on. So I left UNESCO. We kept the name of Innocence in Danger, and I set up Innocence in Danger as an NGO, as a non-for-profit, first in Paris, and soon after in other countries, as I said, Germany, Switzerland, and so on. And it has been 25 years where Innocence in Danger has been and is the voice of victims of abuse, be it on internet, be it off internet. But of course, today, many times when a child is abused, the image is involved in the process of abuse. And our mission is to not only protect children, but to offer them judicial, therapeutical, and reconstruction programs. We go to court with them. We offer therapies. There are different kinds of therapies for this kind of trauma, because they are all in a situation of trauma. They have very big level of trauma inside. And, as we will see later on, the body always keeps the score. Our bodies do not forget anything. We may have a moment of amnesia or not remembering things, but they come back and they are there. They are there anyhow, and the impact is unfortunately a lifetime impact. What we have to teach the victims is to still live their lives and understand that they are not victims for life. But this is our daily work. We will go through that in my speech, in my other sessions where we talk about the impact of sexual abuse. Is there anything special that you would like to ask me for now?
Well, I have a question. So I guess the thing so first of all, I'm in shock hearing all of these stories. It seems really far that, something like, people growing up and experiencing these trauma and having all of these experiences, it's not something that I can imagine, but having all of those like dark webs and everything else, it seems like it's not part of the same world that I live in, but of course it is real. So I guess my first question is, what was the hardest part of your work? So was it like actually letting people know about this issue or trying to solve this issue? Or was there any other part that you have found to be the hardest throughout the past 20 years?
Thank you for your question, Ada. I have to say, yeah, there are big challenges, but one of the biggest challenges is what you just said yourself, is that I face, I become witness of crimes in our world where we all live, and I realize that many few people know what is going on. It was to make people believe that this is even going on. Today, 25 years later, there is a lot more information, and many people know that these things are happening. But just imagine 25 years ago, nobody even had a notion of what is going on. And, in order to find response to a situation, you have to identify the situation first before looking for solutions. But the situation could not be identified because many people didn't know, many people didn't believe, many people hated the topic, and they thought because you hate a topic, you just avoid it. It's like, of course, I hate the topic of cancer, but cancer is a disease, it's there. We have to accept it and find solutions for it. So the biggest part was to raise awareness, it's not finished, because as you said, we are amongst the privileged ones where my world either didn't know back then these horrors. It was a million kilometers away from me to think that people could even harm children for no reason. I mean, it was impossible to imagine. But then I saw what happens. I witnessed the situation in which are the kids, and it is very, very hard to imagine that there are human beings. They are actually not human beings, but they are, unfortunately. There are human beings who, for no reason, harm children, because it is a kind of, it's a murder. That's what the victims said. The victims say, this is the day I died. It is a murder. The only difference with this murder and the murder we see in movies is that in this one, there is no cadaver. The cadaver still moves, but this is a cadaver too, because they are somehow walking deads until you give them some solutions, some help, some support, therapies, then they come back to life little by little. And also what we have to understand is that this problem is not only in certain economical backgrounds, it's in every society, every background, every religion, every country, poor, rich, educated, not educated, Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, Protestant, Buddhist. It happens everywhere. This is what we have to accept. And also we have to understand that that child did nothing wrong. The child is as innocent as you, as your young sisters, brothers. The child didn't look for trouble. He or she was unlucky to cross the road of a predator, and this can happen to anyone. Yeah.
For sure, definitely. I also have a bit of like a connection to just like the spreading awareness parts, because we have hand out flyers to people on the street, just telling them to like join our, yeah. And especially in Canada, people think, we're a first world country, it's not going to happen here. Well, the truth is it happens everywhere. So they think that this is a far problem, just like I have, because it's really hard to connect. They think it's really far away when in fact it's right underneath our eye. So yes. Thank you so much for your work. And I definitely think we need to, as you mentioned, it's still going on. It still is the problem. It's not done yet. So I really hope that through this workshop, we can at least spread the awareness to the 10 people that we have registered with. And now we can have these 10 members just keep on.
I was going to propose to each one of you, become Innocence in Danger ambassadors, because you see, I need help to raise awareness in your regions, and I cannot be everywhere. And we are so busy dealing with the court cases, 10, 15 court cases per day that we have to study and find a lawyer, find a therapist, and so on. So I don't have any more time to do this. I'm not your age. I'm a grandmother, and I've been doing this for 25 years, and I love what I do. But I need help. And for me, your generation, that's what I told Phoebe, your generation is my hope, because your minds are clean, because you are, your minds are fresh. You have kept all the humanity we are born with, and hopefully it will remain intact and nothing will come to break it. But I think it would be absolutely amazing if Innocence in Danger could find in each one of you who feels like it an ambassador, just to, as you said, Ada, to hand out information. Like in each class that I will make with you, I will give figures, and then it's really up to you to choose, depending on which kind of community you have access to pick up this or that fact, and to make a little something to post on Instagram, and to hand it out to people, because I think we owe this, not only we owe this to our children, but it is the only way we can have a safe tomorrow. It is the only way, because victims are, if we don't do this, victims grow angry. They hate you and me and the world and themselves, and they make wrong choices. And those wrong choices will impact us, all of us, because those wrong choices, I will go over that in another session. Those wrong choices are delinquency, drug dealing, prostitution, all the bad choices that one can imagine, because they have nothing to lose. We have to make sure people who have nothing to lose are very dangerous, because so we have to make sure they have access to education, they are part of the community, and they are looked upon with love and care. This is what they need. So yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
So, yeah, no, thank you so much for, letting us know about this story. So do we have any other questions that we have so far from other registrants in the room?
Yeah, I do, but it's not kind of questions, because I just want to know, can you talk about one of the most impressive crime or things once happened to you?
To me?
Over the years that you joined the, just to support the people in trafficking, human trafficking. One of the most impressive crime or thing.
Okay, just to make sure that I understood what you are asking, thank you.
Yeah.
You mean what is the most impressive thing that happened to a child under our protection?
Not yeah.
Okay.
Of a crime that impressed you.
Okay. Okay. Before answering your question, I'll tell you a true story, which is a beautiful and sad at the same time. Please be sure to understand that the sessions we do together are not only and solely about trafficking, because trafficking is one thing. Child abuse has many faces. One of the faces is trafficking. This is when we take a child from point A, we take him or her to point B, and then they travel here and there for the clients. But our work is sexual abuse, trafficking or not trafficking, whether the child is trafficked or it's happening at home and he or she is trafficked somehow on the internet. For me, it's the same situation which calls for help. Now, to give you a story, which is a true story, what is your name? The one who asked this question.
That's Chloe.
Chloe, okay, Chloe. So Chloe, this happened very exactly in summer of 2016. I was in vacation, it was August, and I have a Facebook account since many years ago. I don't even know how many years ago. And then one evening on my Facebook, on my personal Facebook, I received a message from somebody who apparently was a girl, because on Facebook, you don't know if you talk to a dog or a man or a girl. And she, in a very, very bad French writing with many mistakes and this and that, she says, I am 16 years old. I need help. I am in a prostitution ring. I have been trafficked. I'm in this area of, it was in France. I'm in north of France and I need help. You know, at the first thing I have to tell you is that when I receive a message like this, it can be true. It can be not true. It can be a real situation. It can be somebody who wants either to see what I will say, what I will do, how I will react, or somebody who is not even testing me, somebody who wants to waste my time. It's a trap, something awful comes out of it. So I have to first make sure that I'm talking to a real individual and it is a child and so on. So it took a couple of exchanges over 3 weeks before I was convinced that it is a real little girl. For me, 15, 16 is a little girl. And I told her, give me a phone number where I can call you, because we were only chatting on Facebook. And it took her some time to accept to give me a phone number, but eventually she did. I called her and I spoke to the voice of a very young person. I learned that, do you all have 18 years? Are you all over 18 or close to 18, or what age are you?
We're mostly high schoolers and college students.
15, 16 years old?
Yeah, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, we're all in this range.
Okay, so she was 15, 16 years old, but I will be careful with the words I use, because as much as I want to share with you all the story, I don't want, I mean, yeah, I have had kids your age, and I don't want you to have a nightmare tonight or to have a problem. I don't want to shock you. I want you to understand, but I don't want to shock you. So this little girl was sold to a child prostitution ring in the north of France, and she was being trafficked to she had been to Poland, to Germany, to Switzerland, to Paris, and anyhow. And then she told me that she has 10 to 15 clients per day, that she brings back a lot of money to the ring, but that they give her only a little portion of it. She also told me that every girl, because she was not the only one, apparently there was a building of 3-4 stories and there were only girls. There were like 15 apartments. In each apartment there was a girl, and they had appointments which were taken for them by the pimps who were, you know, those guys who were ruling this ring. And they would tell her, for example, you have a client in Brussels tonight at 1 a.m. and they would have a car pick them up, drive them there, bring them back. They would have a shopper, somebody who would go shopping for them, because maybe they had to be dressed like this or like that. And then she told me one night that she was pregnant. Of course, the child was the child of a rape. And I asked her, do you want to keep the child? She said, yes, absolutely. I want to keep the child because it is the only way for me, it means for her, to have a redemption and to believe in life again. There is no way I will let go of the child, and I want you to help me to give birth. when we were talking about this, she was like 6 months pregnant, but she had another 3 months to go. And she was still being sent to clients. And I found it disgusting to have a young woman, she was 16 years old, pregnant, 6 months pregnant, to have to undergo all this. So I told her, how much do you want to come out? How much do you want to be out? She said, I want to come out. I want to bring up my child. I don't want to do this anymore, but I need help because we are under very high surveillance. And if I don't go to a meeting that has been taken for me, I will be punished. And she explained to me what a punishment means. And I will not tell you how did it translates, because you are too young to go there. But I mean, it was terrible. So I was just in my head thinking, my goodness, how am I going to do this? I tried to find safe homes for her in Paris and find it. I thought I will find a safe driver, then she will run away, but there were no safe home. I couldn't find a safe home easily. I called everybody I knew. And finally, I found somebody, and I needed to trust the person. So I found a place through somebody whom I trust. And I told her that she is a trafficked child. If they found her, they will bring her back. She's pregnant, But then we had to find a way for her to run away. And run away when you are 16 years old, you are pregnant. And there was in each floor of this building, apparently there was a man who was the surveillant of all these people, of all these girls. And she would tell me, he's behind my door, or he's going to come here, and so on. So we found something one day. It is like a little James Bond, but I'm very proud of it because she was amazing. Because the only way for us was one night, she had this client booked for her, and she had to go very late, like 1 a.m. She had to go to Brussels and meet this client. And she told me, I really don't want to go to this guy. He's very violent. I know him. I have already, has already used my services. I really don't want to go. I'm afraid. So we decided that she has to run away that night. So I asked her, do you know anybody in your household, any friend, not other girls who are into prostitution, but a friend of yours whom you trust, who has a car, who is a little bit older than you? So we found one of her friends who has a car, and I called the friend, and we suggested that she would not go to the meeting, that she would go to the bathroom of her flat, and from the window of the bathroom, she will go on the roof of this 3-floor apartment, and we will have a rope for her to go down, and her friend will be waiting downstairs in her car, not downstairs, in the street, to the back window, to drive her to Paris, where she could meet my team. That is what we did. And while we were doing this, she was telling me, of course, she was scared, she was nervous, and she was telling me, but Homayra, I see their feet, they're behind my door, they will come in, they have the keys. But it was exactly like in a movie. But finally, she took the rope, she went down, the friend picked her up, brought her to Paris, she went to this safe home. And then I went to Paris, I met her, I took her to the doctor to examine her. And you can imagine, for a girl who has been raped 15 times a day since she's 6 years old, because she was sold at the age of 6, to be examined, excuse me, ladies, young ladies, to be examined down there was very challenging. And because she was a kid, in her mind, she was telling me, but I don't want my baby to come from there. I want them to open my tummy and bring the baby out from front. Now, I had to explain to her that this is not possible, that the baby will have to come down through take that road. And so finally she gave birth to a little boy. The little boy now is 6 years old, 5.5, 6 years old. She is a wonderful mother. and she has, interestingly enough, what has saved her is that she is not very close to God, or God is very close in her heart. I don't know how to put it. She's praying a lot. She is going to church, she's going to the mass, and she's a wonderful mother. And the baby boy, the little boy is gorgeous, is beautiful, and they are living somewhere in France. For the time being, because of the state in which she was when I rescued her, we have not yet gone to court because she is not ready. She is not ready. You know, all her body is, she has scars from scarifications or knives, or, you know, she is full of scars. She's beautiful, but she's full of scars, and she's still very afraid because she doesn't want to be found, and she has a child. And this is a story because I also am very close to her. I speak to her every other day. She's like my daughter. She's like my own daughter. I love her, and I'm very, very, very proud of her, because I really, honestly, with her, I saw what is the strength of a human being, because she died many times. She died N times a day, but she decided to live, and she decided to give life to another little person. And she did it with wow, amazing, amazing. So this is one story that really took my heart, and also gave me a lot of hope, because I thought if she could, just by having somebody next to her, a group of people next to her, if she could overcome all that and be such a wonderful parent, it gives me hope that others can maybe do that too. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Like, when I listen to the story, I feel like so pathetic, because she's just like such a young girl, and she didn't enjoy like her childhood.
Yeah.
And then she just became a mom.
Yes, exactly.
She didn't enjoy her childhood life, and then she need to like be responsible for another newborn child.
Yes, yes, you are very right.
That's so sad.
It's
a so sad story.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, Chloe, I invited her sometimes to come for vacation with me with her little boy. And you know, to go back to what you just said, the little boy had toys, but she did have toys too. She had dolls. She still played like a child. So you are absolutely right. She had no childhood, and for that reason, she is a child. Some part of her is not growing at all. She still sucks her finger, her thumb. She has dolls. She speaks like a child. And sometimes when we want to go out for, you know, lunch or dinner, I have to tell her to dress up like an adult, because otherwise she will dress up like a child with ponytails here, with ribbons. I mean, you know, imagine I brought her to Gstad with me, and she in the restaurant, she wanted to sit on the floor. She wanted to have her toys. I mean, she had not received the education of a parent to know how to behave. She didn't know how to eat, didn't know, you know, yeah. So you are right, Chloe. You said the right thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think another thing I just can't imagine is, I just can't imagine if she still like stay in that horrible place with a child. I just can't imagine what is her future? What will she do?
Yeah, I mean, you know, of course, she's not there. She's not where I found her. She's in another place, obviously, and she changes places as soon as anybody you know, as soon as they may be at risk of something. But Chloe, her future is jeopardized. Her future is broken. What future? I mean, she didn't go to school. she cannot write and read properly. She cannot speak properly. And even though if I spent hours to tell her how to behave in public, this should have been done many years ago, and not when she was like, have you read the book of Jungle, Mowgli? Do you know about Mowgli? Mowgli is a boy who is brought up in a jungle, so he doesn't have the same habits and customs than you and I. And this girl is like that. She used to eat with her hands, and then clean her hands with whatever she would found. And she wanted to, when I was telling her that she should go and take a shower, for example, she wanted, do you know what is Javel water? Javel is something that you clean the bathroom with, you clean the floor with it. She wanted products on which it was written, cleanse and disinfects everything. She thought that she has to clean herself. And I learned that she was using household products to take a shower because she felt filthy. So I had to tell her that you cannot do this. Her skin was dry like a crocodile. And this is when I found out why. So it took really a very long time for her to break very old habits. And as I tell you, even today, if you saw her, she behaves very well for a couple of hours, but then it cannot go beyond that. Then she goes back to the little girl who wants to suck her thumb and who has a dog. And yeah. This is true.
I think it's still just really hard to imagine what she must have gone through, and the courage to have a child when she is still in the situation. But at the same time, I really appreciate how people can come together to help each other, as well as her mindset. I think she's a really positive person, because she sees the child as a start of a new life. As you mentioned, she thinks that a child can help her see life again. So I think that is with that type of mindset, it's really easy to be in a better situation. She's constantly seeking out for help. She's not afraid to reach out. I think these are really important qualities that we can also learn from these survivors.
Yes, absolutely. She is definitely an example. I dream of the day when she would write her memories, because nobody can invent what she has to say. It goes beyond any kind of fiction. Maybe one day.
For sure. Definitely. Do we have any other questions or anything else that you guys are interested in asking or are wondering about? Well, if so, then I have a question that I was hoping to ask you again. So I guess, because you are doing God's work, basically, and you are helping out so many people. And as youth, as high school students, as college students, oftentimes we think that we are limited by the connections that we have, by the power that we have, by how much we can do. So what do you think as youth? What do you think that we can do to help the situation? What do you think we can do to contribute to making the world a better place for future generations and children who are suffering from these situations?
Beautiful question, Ada. What you can do, the best thing you can do from where you are, is to raise awareness, is to bring more and more young people like yourselves to accept, to learn about this topic, to accept, to break the taboo around it. Because it is like, when if I told you, let me read something for you, and then you will see why I am telling you that the best thing is to raise awareness. And because only by uniting and being a big number of citizens, we can show our governments that this is what we care for. Otherwise, governments will not go there. They are not courageous enough, and they all want to be re-elected. They think economy is the most important thing. They want to economy, arms, wars, all these things, but they don't understand that the childhood is the most important and valuable investment. It goes beyond money. You invest in a child, what comes back is much bigger than what you could ever invest in, and vice versa. Now, I want to read you something to you ladies. Wait a minute, because it's something, and if you want, I can send it to you, because this can be not a motto, but something that you can tell your friends. Okay, it's called Imagine. Imagine a childhood disease that strikes 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys before they reach the age of 18. A disease that can cause dramatic mood swings, erratic behavior, and even severe conduct disorders among those exposed. A disease that breeds distrust of adults and undermines the possibility of experiencing normal sexual relationships. A disease that can have profound implications for an individual's future health by increasing the risks of problems such as substance abuse, sexually transmitted diseases, suicidal behavior. A disease that replicates itself by causing some of its victims to expose future generations to its debilitating effects. Imagine what we as a society would do if such a disease existed. We would spare no expense. We would invest heavily in basic and applied research. We would devise systems to identify those affected and provide services to treat them. We would develop and broadly implement prevention campaigns to protect those children, wouldn't we? Such a disease does exist. It is called child sexual abuse. Our response, however, has been far from the full court press reserved for traditional diseases or health concerns of equal or even lesser magnitude. Perhaps the perception of sexual abuse as a law enforcement problem or our own discomfort in confronting sexual abuse contributes to our complacency. Whatever the reason, we have severely underestimated the effects of this problem on our children's health and quality of life. What I just read for you is an extract from a commentary by Professor James Mercy, who is a researcher at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And he wrote a kind of a book which is called Having New Eyes, Viewing Child Sexual Abuse as a Public Health Problem, Sexual Abuse, a Public Health. So it goes on and on. And then I would like to say it only takes one voice to change history. Now, if our voices are together, we can make a difference by simply, I am sure, wherever you are, in every community you may be, there are those who have been affected by this problem. They may not want to talk about it. They may not even remember. I hope the numbers are not big, but this is what happens with us. Each time I speak in a community later, I have a number of those who were in the attendees who contact me privately afterwards and ask for serious help because they went through something that is very close to what we do. So Ada, to answer your question, what I would do is, if, for example, you are all in university, you're in school and you have projection rooms, start by watching movies. I sent a list of films to Ada, to Phoebe, maybe to you too, I don't remember. But start by watching those. There are movies that are in the cinema halls. start by watching them, because each movie that you will watch will bring you one step closer to the understanding of what we are dealing with and what we are talking about. I would suggest you do that. And once we are there, we will have other plans for what to do. But you all can do something. That is for sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the story and the beautiful text. Do you mind letting me know where I can find this? I think I want to post
Can I
it.
send it to you? I can send it to you in our by email.
Yeah, that would help.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I wanted.
Yeah, it's a very good idea. Once we're finished talking, I'm going to copy paste it in an email to you, so you can have it, you can share it as much as you want.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Thank you. Well, speaking of movies, so recently, you know, the movie Sound of Freedom came out. It's very, I guess, both popular and controversial. There's a lot of different voices around it. Especially, do you know about Polaris Project? So they are like one of the largest anti-trafficking in the States. So they claim that the movie Sound of Freedom doesn't speak from a survivor's perspective as much. However, other people think that it is more about just spreading the awareness. So I guess one question that I have for you is, say that, you know, we are trying to spread awareness and there are a few, for example, maybe misinformation or details that we were not that as focused on. How do you think that we can kind of balance between just spreading awareness and also finding good information and well-researched information to spread?
Have you seen them? Anybody here has seen the movie?
I haven't seen yet, but I'm planning to at least take a look at it.
Okay, I have seen the movie. The link was sent to me. It is not yet out in Europe. And I know the producers, and I know Tim Ballard, who is, the story is based on Tim Ballard, who is a wonderful guy. It is not a I'm a movie freak. I'm a movie jury. So I'm very difficult with movies. It is not a masterpiece as a movie. It is a very, how can I say, heartbreaking story. However, what is denounced in the movie is more, as you said, Ada, it's more about raising awareness. It is not about, the victims are too young to even talk. One of them is 3 years old and the other one is 8 years old or 6 years old. So it is not about survivors taking the power or talking. It is about rescuing them. It is about the organizations who traffic them and who sell them to predators. What I regret personally about the movie is that the movie is set in a place which talks about the borders between the US and Mexico, and it takes place in Colombia. For me, it is always wrong. Not always, it is wrong in our topics to take the problem to another far country. Because what is denounced in the movie, what is depicted in the movie, happens in the US. US is one of the biggest platforms of trafficking, as are Western and Eastern countries, as is, it is said to be Korea, and so on and so forth. So taking it to one specific country makes people think, it's not here, it's there. And I'm not going there, and we're not Colombians, and we're not Mexicans, so it's fine. You see what I mean? This is the only thing that I found I didn't really appreciate in the movie, because I wanted to think that this is a movie which brings the problem here where we are, because this is where we want to be active, and we have to change our habits here. The guys who go to rape these kids in Colombia are Americans, are French, are German, are English. You know, the guys who are exploiting them are Colombians and Americans, but the clients are from our countries. So they have to be, they have to feel concerned. Like, for example, there was this campaign which was done by Sean Penn and God, I forgot their names. A few actors, I love them all for what they did. They did a campaign which is called, they take a picture and they have a big paper here. And on the paper is written, a real man doesn't pay for sex. They are right, you know, and those kids, no child is for sale. This is the kind of impactful campaign which can really you know, make people think, yeah, a real man doesn't have to pay for sex. So I think that the movie is good. And what is interesting with the movie, there are two elements which I want to share with you, which are interesting about the outcome of this movie. One of them is that the movie was finished, in the production was finished in 2016, but it didn't come out. Disney blocked its distribution for 7 years. Disney, that whom we think they love kids and we love them, we don't love them anymore. You know, so, and finally it came out through the efforts of private people like us. The movie costed $14 million. And it made 3-4 days ago, 100 million in the box office. What does that mean? That means that people like us are eager to learn. They want to know. And that the media who totally boycotted this movie, no media wrote a line about it. It was totally boycotted by all the media. It means media does not have the same power anymore. And it means that media is, they work like mercenaries. You know, they obey to the rules of government, and the governments are scared. Why are they scared? Because they know they are not doing a good job. And Tim Ballard, who is the guy in the movie, he's first working with the, I think in the Navy. But when he sees that they are not doing enough and they're not going fast, he created his own team of commando and rescued the kids. So I believe governments are scared because they know they're not doing a good job. They are doing nothing except declarations and, you know, just empty words. Nobody is doing really something. So they are afraid that we get together, people get together and decide to fight it. Otherwise, I think it's a movie to be watched, absolutely, and to allow a conversation about it like we are doing now. This conversation has to exist as often as possible because the problem is huge and the problem has been ongoing for decades. We have to find solutions, but nobody will come up with a solution alone. And definitely not governments. We cannot count. You know, when this COVID thing happened, and people were telling this and that government said, I said, you know, I don't believe a word from the government. And I didn't believe a word they said. When people, I'm writing a book about it. When they asked me why, I said, you want to tell me that governments who don't care if kids are being torn apart by the sex, of an adult, sold and raped 10-15 times a day, and they know more than I do. Do you think those people care for my health? They want me to live? I don't think so. If they cared, they would first do something for the kids. They know what I know, they know it multiplied by 100. They're not doing anything in every country, including Canada, including US, including France, including Germany. Some are doing more than others, some are really terrible. But in any case, governments are not combating this topic at all and don't believe what is said, because on the ground, victims are left alone. And this is what originates in a lot in drug dealing, in delinquency, because, you know, a victim who has been left on the sidewalks, nobody paid attention to him or to her, and he or she is broken, Do you think she loves you? Do you think she loves me? Do you think she loves cats? Do you think she cares about the ecosystem? We want to save the nature. For whom? For who? We want to save dogs. I love dogs, but for whom? Because we have to understand that you and I and all of you, we have empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is that if Ada now starts bleeding from her nose, please don't, Ada, we will all feel with her. We will say, oh my God, Ada, what happened? This is empathy. If Ada, if I am hurting, you will be worried for me. If you see my blood, it will turn your heart, because we have empathy. Why do we have empathy? Empathy is not like the genes of color of the hair, color of the eyes, color of the skin. Empathy is not inherited from parents, or empathy is something that grows with a child if the child experiences empathy. Now, a child who has not experienced empathy because he was raped and nobody cared, not the parents, not the society, not the law system, he has no empathy. So if he asks me for $100 and I don't give it to him, he can cut my neck and he wouldn't blink. So we want the world to go back to a situation where we are not afraid from each other, where we feel safe being close to each other. It is no longer the case, and you are all very young. I'm hoping for you, all of you, for your generation, to have the joy we had when I was your age. I had a beautiful youth because all these things didn't exist. We could go to discotheques, nobody wanted to rape us when we were your age. Afterwards, it's different. But when we were your age, I was your age, I had a golden childhood and not afraid of anything. If a boy would invite me to go to his house to change his shoes, I would go, and he would not rape me. He would not even try. This was a moment where we could trust each other. But all what I'm saying is not true today. You cannot trust somebody who tells you, oh, you know what? I forgot my phone at home. Will you come with me so I pick up my phone? Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe he will rape. You don't know. And maybe he will rape and take the film and put it on TikTok and earn money with it. You don't know. So that world is the world we are living in. And we want I want to believe that with the help of us, we are planting seeds. We plant seeds everywhere we go. We plant little seeds. They will grow. They will grow little by little. They will become trees, and they will become entities with a power. That's what I think.
Thank you so much. That is such a empowering, beautiful, and the message that we all needed to hear. Well, I think that wraps up my question. Do we all have any other questions that we have for Homayra? We also have future sessions, so it's okay if you don't have any.
Yeah, you maybe can think about your questions and write them down, and the next time we get together, you can ask me other questions if you wish to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess this is all we have for today with Homayra. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing so much. It's a lot of information that we may have to digest. But yeah, thank you so much for.
You are more than welcome.
Yeah,
you are more than welcome. I'm very happy to talk to you, young ladies. You are the mothers of tomorrow. So yeah, it's very important for me to do so.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. I see you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you next week. And guys, I have another presentation, but we don't need Homayra to sit through this with us. So bye, Homayra. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so now we're on to part 2. So we have spent more than an hour with Homayra with one emoji, just to get us a bit back on track. With one emoji, please show how you are feeling right now. Let's see. So Amy's all good. Chloe has a heart. Okay, nice. Stella, all good. Okay. glad that we're still here. So I guess we can spend like 5 minutes with like a water break, kind of chill, and then I'll just go back with, because I think it's a information introduction foundation thing that I kind of want to lay today so that we can have future discussions. But yeah, let's take a 5 minute break and we will be back at 2:20 my time or whatever o'clock 20. Okay. Let's start joining back. We have quite a bit. I'm trying to end this earlier because I don't want to take up so much time. So I will be sharing this presentation with you guys as well in the Google Classroom. Jessica, Chloe, are we all back? Can we get like a thumbs up because I can't see you guys? Okay, all good, all good. So this is a introduction to human trafficking that Future Unchained Toronto has made. We've presented this for like more than I don't know how many times, but it's never bad to kind of go over the basics. So since we are on limited right now, I will be skipping a lot of these videos and just going down straight to the point. So this is an important foundation that I think we all would want to build. So, first of all, an introduction to Future Unchained. Future Unchained is a nonprofit organization aimed to serve and empower victims and survivors of human trafficking. We're founded in California, but have expanded around various places around North America, including Toronto. And at the time, we didn't expand to Europe yet, but now we have also expanded to Europe with Phoebe as our European president. So we have done quite a lot of work. We have presented many online and in-person workshops. We have also had curriculums and just publications online. We also have social media posts that you guys can check out anytime. So feel free to look into us. And so this is basically a list of the missing keyword in Toronto news. So the point of this slide is just to tell you that in Toronto, such a developed, such an advanced city, there are still people going missing. Of course, some of these missing people could have been, they are just wandering around on the street and forgot where their homes were. But also a lot of these are really trafficked. And, if you look at the news screenshots over here, there are people who are still trafficking criminals. So this is not just the thing, as Homayra also said today, this is not an issue that is just happening in third world countries. So again, what is human trafficking? The textbook definition is that human trafficking is the transporting of victims with monetary, labor, or sexual intentions. And essentially, this is just modern day slavery because we are purchasing and selling humans, which is very immoral because as humans, we know that one of the fundamental rights that we have is freedom. So this crime takes away the freedom of the victims and makes them into basically just commercial merchandise that you can purchase and sell. And so we're not going to have time to watch this video, but in essence, that human trafficking is put into 3 parts. So I would suggest that, you probably want to either screenshot or take notes of these 3 parts because we will be visiting this later on. So human trafficking within its 3 parts are acts, means, and purpose. So you can take a look at this from 2 different angles. You can take a look at this from the trafficking person's perspective, so the criminal's perspective. And you can also take a look at this from the trafficked person, so the victim's perspective. So act is to lure a victim into trafficking. So what makes the victim trust you? So some acts could be violent, so you have just basically just force the victims into the trafficking, or you may have like tricked them, say there is a job opportunity, but it's actually working for you as a forced labor. Well, like you, not you, but the trafficked people. Or you can say that it's a great, you can threaten their family, so that type of stuff. So basically act is what has gotten the victim into the game. As we call this the game because it's just what survivors have used. Means is what keeps the victims inside the game. So for example, you may threaten them, you may threaten to kill them, you may threaten to kill their family or to tell their family about this, because say you have a sex trafficking victim and maybe they think that they are doing sex work, they think that they are doing voluntary sex work when they are actually a victim of human trafficking. They don't want their family to know about the sex work that they are doing. So if you threaten to tell their family about the sex work, which is actually human trafficking, they will say, no, I will do whatever you want, and just don't tell my family. So this is just means is to trap the victim. And motive is just purpose is motive. So what got the trafficker into the game? So why does the trafficker want to be a criminal? Why does the trafficker want to traffic other people? So in essence, act is what got the traffic victim into the game. Purpose is what got the trafficked criminal into the game. And means is what keeps them tied together. So, just an example that we can see. So you guys can watch the video later on, but in the video, the act was that the victim was incentivized by a new job. The trafficker told him that you will be getting a new job by coming with me. And so he went. But then he was transported to a far city and couldn't leave because he had no money. So now he has to stay by the trafficker. And that is the means. That is what keeps them together. And trafficker, of course, he gets free labor. He doesn't have to follow any safety guidelines. He doesn't have to follow any laws, and it's cheap. So that is why the trafficker wants to be into human trafficking. So of course, criminals prefer human trafficking because it's highly profitable and they can earn profits for multiple of times, when as opposed to drugs, they can only be sold once. And one of the key things, if there is only one thing that you get out of this workshop, is that human trafficking can target any race, age, or gender. So obviously, we all know that women and young children are targeted exceptionally, proportionally more. However, it can happen to any race, age, or gender. And just because you are male or you are older does not necessarily mean that you are completely safe. So some statistics that I want to bring. So as of right now, there are around 25 million in the world who are affected by human trafficking that we know of. And that is essentially the entire population of Canada. I'm not sure if you guys have have this connection, but what I would usually say that we almost have an entire Canada that is being sold around. 95% of these victims are women and girls, and that is a Canadian specific stat, but also 43% of victims were between ages 18 to 24, and 73% of victims were coerced by someone they knew. So people, obviously, when we were young, our parents told us, don't talk to strangers. Well, that is true, but it's not entirely true, because oftentimes it's people that you know who are the most dangerous because they know you so well. They know how to get you in the game. So there are mainly three types of human trafficking. There are labor trafficking, sex trafficking, and organ trafficking. So I will not be getting into these types specifically. There will be case studies and videos for you to watch, but I'll leave that to your own time. For right now, I will just be going through some stats. So for labor trafficking, there are estimated 24.9 million people trapped in forced labor worldwide. So they may be coerced into a place that they do not want to work at, or they may have just been sold. And statistics are 16 million are exploited in private sectors. 4 million are imposed by state authorities. So government can also be a criminal in this sense. 58% of all labor trafficking victims are women and girls, and about 150 billion US dollars is estimated to be earned annually through labor trafficking. So as we all know, human trafficking is a very profitable industry, and because it is so dark, because it is so just profitable, it's one of the darkest crimes that you can have on earth. Next up, we have sexual trafficking. So sexual trafficking usually targets the most vulnerable, so runaway children, the marginalized, the discriminated, and the homeless. And there are estimated 4.8 million victims of sexual trafficking worldwide that we know of. There are obviously people, because, this is a gray area, and sometimes they are thinking that they are doing sex work. Sometimes they think that they are in a loving relationship, when in fact they are actually in a trafficking situation. So we will have a course on this later on as well. But as of right now, you just have to know that these numbers are just what is public, what is known, and there are more. It's like a ice, what is it called? It's like a tip of the iceberg. So you never know how many people are actually in these situations. So around 1 million kids are involved in this industry, and 12 to 13 years old is the age where most victims first enter. So, 6th grade, 7th grade, really young kids. And 99 billion US dollars, again, is estimated to be earned through sexual trafficking. It's not as profitable as labor trafficking, but still, you shouldn't make $1 off of people. So lastly, just to go over, I will share the slides with you later on. And I think we also have videos on previous, what do we call it? Previous presentations of this that you guys can watch later on. But lastly, just to go over organ trafficking, because this is the type of trafficking that is not as known, because it's not really buying and selling humans itself, but more of the organs within a human. And many of the times organ trafficking victims, they are not really victims because they think that they have voluntarily done this, but it's still buying and selling humans because there are people who are sold involuntarily. So in organ trafficking, again, one of the means that is different is because that if the trafficked person knows and is voluntarily selling their organ, everyone knows that organ trade is illegal. So even the trafficked person will not be willing to tell their story. Even the trafficked person may keep this as a secret just because they think that organ trade is illegal. So again, organ trade is the largest underground market and has the largest population of potential victims. And it mainly targets people who are out of money because they think that they are either selling their organs, and also it targets people who are healthy, because the more healthy you are, the more valuable your organs are. I think that is pretty self-explanatory, right? So again, this is a Canadian-specific TMI, but there is no law in Canada banning Canadians from taking part in transplant tourism. So what is transplant tourism? As its name suggests, is just traveling around different countries to purchase or sell organs. So there is no law preventing this in Canada, a first world country. So this is just to let you know that laws do not reach in all of these spaces that we need them. And sometimes there are other things that we need to do as individuals to help just better the situation. Again, some stats. Canada is one of the top 10 global importer of organs, and 1 in 10 organ transplants involved a trafficked organ. And as we have spent around 1.5 hours, almost 2 hours on this workshop, we have already had around like 3 organs traded by the time that we will be finishing this workshop. And 1.2 billion per year is estimated to be earned through organ trafficking. So here are some impacts of human trafficking. Of course, there are the mental and physical traumas. There are also a lack of independent living skills. So if you recall to the story that Homayra has shared about the girl who was a sex worker, she still talks like a child, she still acts like a child. These mental trauma can really limit the potential of the survivors. And so we really need to find ways to help them get over or minimize the impacts of human trafficking in order to bring the life of these survivors back to their full potential. I'm not really going to go through the scenario discussion because I want to finish within like 5-10 minutes, but you can, again, you guys can always read and just, I can have like a discussion post. We have a weekly discussion that will be going on, I think next week. So feel free to read through the materials by yourself, and we can always get back to this together in the discussion post. So how can we prevent human trafficking? The most effective methods of prevention are to advocate and educate human trafficking, and to strengthen laws and protection systems that protect targeted individuals. And we will be seeing this throughout the weeks to see what we can do to help. And you can also try to identify human trafficking. So for example, if you see someone who are frequently accompanied by a person that seems to be much stronger or much weaker than they are, if you see like weird tattoos that have like a symbol that makes like a brand mark, if you see someone who has suddenly acquired a bunch of luxuries, if you see that they are wearing clothing that is inappropriate to the weather or their age, then it may hint that the clothing, they did not buy the clothes by themselves and that someone else has given it to them without caring much. So because, you know, if your older sister passed down a dress to you, of course it's going to look at least normal on you. But if your trafficker has given to you a clothes to wear, then it may be inappropriate for whatever, whether, age, your gender, all of the other stuff that we can see that there's something off. So a bunch of red flags that you can detect. You can also try to confirm by asking one of these following questions. But of course, you want to make sure that if you are asking, you are first of all in a safe situation. Of course, you can call 911, and you can call your local trafficking hotline as well, or maybe 911 is not as local, but just reports human trafficking with the survivor's consent, because a lot of times they are in a dangerous situation that they may not want the police to get involved in. So if you see something off, feel free to report it, but the ideal situation is that you are reporting when the survivor or victim is aware that you are reporting the situation. So I guess this is just like a brief overview of the slides that we have. I will be posting this into the Google Classroom. For today, we have a, sorry, I'm not very smart with like multitasking. Yeah, but basically for today, you guys have a short little like a quiz. It's not graded as everything else. Nothing is graded, but it's just like a 10-question little pre-diagnostic. So feel free to answer these true or false questions. It shouldn't take more than, I don't know, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So yeah, feel free to have fun on it. And if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to let us know. And we will see you, I think, on Monday. Yep. I guess that is what I have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions for Homayra, let me just go through this with you guys, sorry. If you have any questions for Homayra, I have this Q&A set up. So if you do have any questions, feel free to comment or share within these answers, and we will see if we want to ask Homayra to answer or if there is anything that Phoebe and I can answer as well. So any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll see you guys later. Bye guys, thank you for joining.
Bye.